we might get started. So welcome everyone to Impact Data's interview with the experts. I want to thank everyone for registering and participating today. We know that keeping your customers engaged during the shutdown is really important. And if you follow marketing at all, and Mark Ritson, who's is an eminent marketing lecturer, has talked about this week, if you're not marketing now, it will cost you 4 times as much to get the same brand equity after the shutdown. So basically, if you've stopped marketing, you're going to have to work 4 times as hard and spend 4 times as much to get to the same position with your customers that you're in now, even with a member base. So if that doesn't scare you, it probably should. It's really time to make sure that you're engaging with your customers. But what do you engage with and how do you engage with them? That's what we're here to talk about today. We've got some innovative ideas. We've got some experts here who have got some really clever things and also are here to help you. So I'd like to introduce our expert panel. So welcome Marianne from Buzz Consultants. Marianne is one of our partners at Impact Data and she's a loyalty and member engagement expert. Now, the guys at Buzz primarily work in the hospitality space, but loyalty is loyalty and they have a lot to tell you about loyalty across all segments. Brayden Haynes from Full House Group, one of Australia's preeminent tipping and entertainment businesses. So they run thousands of live events across Australia every week. Now, unfortunately, that's a business that has halted during the shutdown. So Brayden and the Full House Group team have transitioned to a new product and also have been thinking about new ways that you can keep engaging with your customers. Marketing expert Anthony Baldi from Pubfinda is working on lots of ideas, about what you should be doing now, what his customers are thinking about, and also preparing for the next phase, which is coming out of the shutdown. There's going to be a lot of work that businesses will need to do because the reality is everyone's probably telling us that social distancing is going to be here for a while. So how do we manage that in our businesses, particularly the hospitality and the retail sector? So Anthony's got some ideas about that. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah Franklin and I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing for Impact Data. Our platform Talkbox is the reason that you guys are all here today because we've emailed you and SMS. So if you're not one of our clients, then jump online and tell us about your business and how we might be able to help you. So I'm going to throw it over to Marianne, our Buzz Consultant expert, to talk about loyalty and member engagement. So welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Marianne, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Buzz Consultants?
Yeah, no worries. So I'm the CEO of Buzz Consultants and we do member engagement loyalty programs for clubs and pubs. So we're really focusing on member engagement and figuring out what drives members to your business or venue compared to any other venue and really getting a good understanding of your members. But today I'm going to try and have a broader approach to loyalty for retail sectors or for anyone else who might be here today. So I'm hoping to be able to give you guys some definite input into the loyalty space.
Great, thanks Marianne. So what's the most important consideration about your loyalty program today that you need to be thinking about?
For me, and for what we've been kind of doing over the last couple of weeks is looking at any missed rewards. So the birthday rewards are the really important ones straight up the bat. So anyone who should have been expecting a reward or getting a reward, what are you going to do? So if you're still open, how can you pivot to like an online reward where you can give them, say, a free delivery for their $10 credit rather than coming in store to get it? Or for my venues, for clubs and pubs, we're shut right now. So it's really thinking about the technology and how we can backdate this reward. So are we able to program our technology to do this or do we have to do it manually? Because it's really interesting to have, you know, the powers that be give us direction to say, okay, well, this is how we're going to solve this problem. But operationally, how are we going to make sure that this happens to our members and how can we touch base with them on their birthday, for example, by giving them an SMS to say, hey, sorry, we can't be with you today, but, you know, just know that when we open up again, this is what we're going to do for you.
That's a really excellent point. I've actually had my birthday during this shutdown period, which was sad for me. But what I did notice is that a number of businesses actually had gotten onto that straight away, and they sent me a "we wish we could be with you today" kind of message versus here's a voucher, which is going to run out long before I can actually redeem it. So a really important thing, really simple, because we know in the hospitality space that key occasions drive about 37% spend on top of an offer. So we obviously push them primarily, and I'm sure that it's similar numbers in retail, but you can't be tone deaf at this point when people can't redeem. So yeah, get onto your automations, I think, right?
Definitely.
All right, okay, we've just had a little bit of an issue there. All right, let's move on to the next question. Is, should you be talking to your member segments differently right now, or is it a blanket message for everyone? What's your best advice?
100% differently right now. So think about your business. You're going to have so many different decisions to make and different messages you need to get out. And if you're trying to tell everybody every single message, it is going to get lost in the wash, you know? So you have to think about, take Virgin, for example, right? So they had an email sent out where they went, hey, everybody, your tier status credits, it's all fine. We saved it. Then they're going to have another email out for anybody who had a booking within the next 3 months. So I didn't have a booking, so I don't care about that. So they're not going to waste their communication channels talking to me about something that doesn't make sense. It was a really important message to get out, but it's really important to talk differently. And then when we think about our tiers, if you have a tiering program, your top tiers really care about their status and their rewards, because they've spent a lot of time and a lot of money in your venue to get those rewards. So they're going to be worried about that, whereas your entry tier levels might be worried about when bingo's coming back, or when they can play tennis again, or something completely different. So the more you can segment and the more you can talk differently to people right now, the more in tune with your brand they're going to be, because you're talking sense to them and you're not talking just at them, you're talking with them.
I think that's a really important point. And one of the things that we work with people like yourself and Full House Group and our other data partners to understand is as much behavioural information as we can get about customers. If you don't have it connected to your email channels, now is the time to do this. The more that you can understand, if you've got a business intelligence tool, slice and dice your data and figure out what people are doing. And the tennis example is a great one, Marianne. Talk to the tennis people differently about, you know, that sort of activity versus, you know, people who actually just come to the bistro. You know what? They might be interested in your takeaway offering, your bottle shop customers, you know, all of those sorts of things. And, or if your retail, your most loyal retail customers, they might be really happy to keep coming into store, but you need to let them know, and you might give them, as Coles have done, a priority time, because there's a different need there. So think about all of those things. I agree. Talking to the same people in the same voice right now is actually probably counterproductive to what you need to do with your customers.
Yep.
All right. So what is your best tip for keeping customers engaged?
My best tip for keeping customers engaged is to plan the work. We know that this is going to be going on for quite some time. Get your marketing calendars out now. And I know this is something we bang on about all the time, but now more than ever, if you're working and living in a virtual environment right now, and we've got some key dates coming up, Easter, Anzac Day, and you know that you've got X amount of weeks to fill in, you've got to sit there and think not only what the message is, but the channels. So going back to the poll that happened just before, and you're going 94% of people are using Facebook. Facebook is great, but it really misses the personalization of your communications. This is where I think Facebook should always be supporting to your email and your SMS communications, because Facebook can only say one thing and it can't, like, you know, you can message back, but if you have your member segmentations in your email database and you can collect the information and deliver a personal message to these people, it is going to be so much more powerful in this time, and it's going to get that engagement. Because like you said before, Sarah, people who shut the doors and press pause now and expect to just press play and be in the same position, it's not going to happen. You know, the people who are planning the work right now and are keeping the relationship alive, they're the ones that are going to be on the front foot when we finally open the doors again.
Absolutely. And, you know, I know that this is an unprecedented situation that we're in, but the behavior isn't. We've seen recessions, we've seen global financial crises in Australia and the global economy. That but that learning is the same as what we need to learn now about marketing to your consumers and staying engaged with them. And as we said, people are at home, they're listening. You know, one of the, I heard a great statement this week. One of the businesses in East Melbourne, a lovely wine bar, is doing deliveries of their wine and charcuterie plates, you know, that sort of stuff, so you can have a beautiful experience at home. And the owner called it a puppy dog moment. When they delivered to someone's front door, usually the only person who cares is the puppy dog comes running to the front door. Everyone comes to the front door now when someone knocks on the door, right? Because it's such a rare thing.
Like, people are here.
Exactly. Someone's got something for me to keep me engaged. And that's an important thing to remember. That last mile of your experience is absolutely critical. If you're delivering goods that have been sent online, if you're delivering food that's, you know, coming through a third-party delivery engine. I got some takeaway this week, and the bag had written on it, "Thanks, Sarah." And that was really lovely, really personalized message, because they appreciated that I was supporting their small business during this time, and they engaged with me down that path. So all of that level of personalization. And as you say, Facebook is one of those great things for mass marketing, but it's not great for one-to-one marketing. So on that note, before we get to your next question, we actually might end that poll and publish the results, Marianne. So as you can see, we're going to share the results. Facebook is actually the lead, and let's be fair, it's cheap, but you don't own the eyeballs. So, and you can't personalize the message. So maybe think through the planning of that. Okay, so how do you plan, Marianne, for what your loyalty program is going to look like after the crisis? Do you pause? Do you recalculate? Do you start over? What do you think people should be thinking about?
I think it's a bit of everything, to be honest. I think you pause in terms of status credits, points, everything that's important to the people, and you start over in terms of calculations. So my biggest tip for people, if you have a tiering program, is to drop a demotion period. So if you demote every 6 months, you skip the next one. If you demote every 12 months, you skip the next one. You just drop a demotion period. You give people the time to recuperate, but they come back to their status credits, their points. Anybody who has a paid membership like clubs, look at extending the membership so they don't lose any value from that. So if you roll it over 3 months, 6 months, however long we are. And if you have 30 June bonus points expiry, look at the legalities around being able to drop that too and push it back. So I just think if people know that whenever we go back to normal, they can pick up as they were, and then they're not going to be punished or, you know, put at a disadvantage for the shutdown, then it's going to be the best of both worlds.
I think that's sound advice. And one of the ways that you can think about engaging with customers who are members right now, I saw this week, one of our clients emailed a beautiful email. It was just a picture of a bowl of Easter eggs. And it said, guess how many Easter eggs we've got. And if you had a member number, you could have additional guesses. You know, just one of those little things that actually customers go, well, I'm a member, so I have a better, you know, I have a better chance of winning. It was a really simple mechanic, simply sent out via email. People filled in a form with their best guess, you know, but I felt different because I was a member.
Well, we had actually one of our venues who were delivering care packages, and then this week they're putting Easter eggs in it with a special little message from all their staff. So when they get their care package, they get a little Easter egg as well, which I thought was a really nice touch.
It's great. I mean, that's the thing, you know, Easter's going to go along, you know, regardless. It's not going to be the retail or hospitality occasion that it normally is, but that doesn't mean it can't be the engagement occasion that, you know, that is important to people right now. So one of our local venues here in Victoria is delivering Sunday lunch for Easter Sunday, and they're delivering it, you know, you can order it for a couple of households locally, and everyone has the same meal, and then you could all jump on Zoom and basically be having Easter Sunday lunch together, just like you might normally do at their club. So yeah, I think that's a great advice. So most importantly, just wrapping up on that, we're going to do all of these things. We're going to pause, we're going to recalculate, and we're going to start over.
Definitely.
Question without notice, Marianne, what do you think about the idea right now during this crisis of actually creating engagement that has nothing to do with visitation and spend, but maybe about the way customers are responding, whether it's member polls, whether it's reviews, that sort of stuff? Do you think that would work?
Oh, I think there's definitely always going to be segments that'll work and not work sort of thing. But with anything, if you can keep a certain portion of your membership engaged, it's all about maintaining the relationship. So it may not work for everyone, but if it works for even a portion of your membership base, then it's absolutely worth the time and the energy, because the more that you can strengthen your relationship with your members in this time of uncertain trading, it's going to be so much better for you on the other side of things. So I'm always looking for ways to reach out, and this whole experience teaches us about silver linings, right? So the people who really survive in these times are the ones that are able to pivot really quickly and think about, okay, well, we can't do this the way that we always did it, but how can we continue to deliver our core community values as our club, or our retail, or how can we still be part of our members' lives while we can't trade normally?
Absolutely. And we had an industry meeting the other day where we came up with a couple of ideas, and we've had a few brainstorming sessions. And one of our favorite ones was actually ask your customers, members, all of your stakeholders and supporters to jump onto the socials and tag your business with a favorite memory. Not only is it great content, it's a fantastic way for members to build that desire about coming back to your place of business. You know, like you're my favorite pet store, or you're where I go and have beer with my mates. If you can have a photo and tag the venue on that, not only is it really helping their SEO and, you know, all of those sorts of things, it's actually members reminding themselves of why their relationship is really important. And let's be honest, joining a loyalty program is like dating. It's a relationship, and you need to have value for both partners.
Yes.
You know, everyone's got to, you know, get something in it. And sometimes at this point, you can put your hand up as the sort of the business and say, you know what, could you help us here? And one of the ways we'd love you to help us is engage with us in a different way. So, you know, that's another one of the tips that we've seen.
Well, yeah, so just finally, the core of the loyalty would be, this is where, you know, loyal members are so important, because they really pump up your good times. But at the end of the day, when times are tough, they really get you through those tough times. So if you have a really good band of loyal members, they're going to come and visit you or try and support you through this as best they can. So
completely agree. Yeah, I mean, now is the time for all of us to call out the loyal customers and ask them for help. And I mentioned briefly reviews. Reviews is one of the really valuable things you can be asking customers for right now that will absolutely help you in the future. So if you haven't thought about asking customers for reviews and feedback, I'd be getting onto that right now. Definitely. So thanks, Marianne. We're going to come back with some pet questions for all the panel. But right now, I'm going to launch the next poll, and then I'm going to introduce Brayden. So the next poll we're just talking about is, do you have a plan to engage your customers? So it actually follows on very nicely from what Marianne said, which is plan to plan. And I would at this stage like to introduce Brayden Haynes, the CEO of Full House Group. So those of you who have ever participated in an APL poker tournament, have done footy tipping or NRL tipping in their venue, or played one of their number of great trivia brands, either in a pub or at a fundraiser, Brayden's business is the group behind it. So hi Brayden, lovely to chat to you. So can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure, thanks for having us, Sarah, and happy birthday for Saturday, I think it was.
Very nice.
So Full House Group is a business, and what we do is we help venues become the social hub of their community. So the way we do that is we've got a combination of products that attract patrons into the venue and then keep them coming back, I suppose, on a regular basis. So the three main products that Full House Group distributes is the Sports Big Game Zone, as you mentioned, a sports scheduling and footy tipping solution. We've also got the Australian Poker League, which runs around about 800 poker tournaments per week around the country, or did up until a few weeks ago. And we also have two trivia brands, Inquisitive and Quiz-A-Me, and combined they run about 280 trivia events around the country per week as well. So getting a little over 1,000 events per week now that we're putting on around the country.
Amazing.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how we go about rebuilding that once.
My guess is, I tell you, the thing that I'm missing most in this lockdown is live sport. So
yeah,
I know Footy tipping will be big. So Brayden, and this leads on to that question. Now that none of those things are available to you as a business, but more importantly to your clients and their members, what is Full House Group doing to provide new entertainment solutions?
Yeah, so look, we looked at the three. Obviously, with sport going down, it makes it pretty hard to conduct a tipping competition. So really with sport, we're ultimately waiting for sport to resume. And then the idea there is that we'll progress a little bit online and also obviously re-engage with venues once sport's up and going and venues are open again. The similar sort of thing with poker, the online poker market in Australia, it's actually illegal to play online poker for money in Australia. So it's not something that can be done. So again, you know, our focus really is on customer engagement through socials, email, SMS. We're coming up with a few different ways that we can do that. And on the trivia side, that is definitely something that does transition a little better to online. And so we actually started to get a few inquiries almost immediately post the shutdown about what the potential was to continue to run trivia. And we were finding we were getting those inquiries from a few venues that were really switched on with it and wanted to make sure that their customers were continuing to be engaged at the same time during the week that they would normally run trivia. And also corporates as well. Obviously, you know, a lot of people are now working from home, and as a result, keeping teams connected is obviously really important.
Yep, absolutely agreed. So I think you've got something to show us. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to let you introduce Darren and take it over, Darren.
Yep, that's definitely a bit of a segue there into Darren. So this is Exquisite, which is just a new brand that we came up with to deliver an online trivia event. So we thought it might be a good way just to showcase the product. So there's only 3 questions in this demo, but Darren will take us through it.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. And I'd like to introduce you to our brand new online platform of trivia called Exquisite Live. And I'd like you to participate and join in if you feel so inclined. Right now, if you grab hold of your mobile device and enter in to a URL on a web page, the coding at the top of the screen that you see at the moment, which is play.exquisite.live. If you enter that in on your web browser, you'll then be prompted to enter an access code. Okay. And the access code is XQuiz, as you see on the top of your screens right now. I'll just give you a couple of moments to enter that in.
How are we going, Darren? Have we got a few people who have decided to join us in this exciting experiment?
We certainly will see the results of that in just a moment. Yeah.
Excellent. So feel free, everyone. Look, we're trying to make this as interesting and fun as possible. So jump on, and we all might learn something. But
so just remember the access code is XQuiz for this particular little mini game. If you've got that typed in, and I'll join in with everyone as well. We'll then hit submit on our mobile devices, and you should see a very similar screen on your mobile as what you can see on your laptop screen right now. So let's move on. I'll give you a bit of an intro here. We're welcome to Exquisite Live. We're going to be asked to enter a player name and choose an avatar in just a moment. Things that you need to know, it is a simple multiple choice answer. You need to select your answer and then also hit the submit button on your mobile device. The faster you submit the right answer, the more points you score, and you won't lose any if you get it wrong, so don't worry. Make sure you're having a guess. This demonstration has a practice question, and then it'll have 3-point scoring questions, and we'll find ourselves a winner. So I think we're all ready to go. Let's have a look at the first practice question. This is everyone a chance to opt in and make sure they're working out the right answer format. So is the sun hot? Very simple. All I want you to do is select the appropriate answer and hit submit. Is the sun
never hot? Never.
No, never and not at all. There's a couple of those.
A couple of Tasmanians.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're coming in from the Antarctic. Yeah.
Make sure you hit that submit button. It'll just give us a good measure of how many people are participating right now. So welcome aboard, everyone that's playing. A couple of wrong answers. We had 25 correct answers. It's a pretty easy concept. Let's now play for real. I'm going to introduce you to a little mini round. We call it My Generation. So welcome aboard. Let's go. First of all, I do want to have everyone now enter in their name and enter in select an avatar. You don't have to have the one that's pre-chosen for you. You can make your own change. So just jot yourself in a name, change your avatar if you want to, and then hit the join game button. And you can see on the screen, there's plenty of people joining in right now. Very easy to play. Come on, get your name in and choose your avatar, and we'll get on to the questions. There's heaps of people joining in now. This is great to see. Everyone's bouncing around on screen. I think we're just about right.
Brilliant.
Last couple of seconds for anyone to join in.
Thanks everyone for participating in this live event. This is brave of all of us during a recorded webinar. So thanks for that. And good work, Darren.
It is great. Well done, everyone. So time now to start the quiz. As I said, it's just a 3-question demonstration. So let's go. Question number 1. Here we go. On your laptop, you'll see what type of lamp was invented in the mid-1960s. Now have a look at your phones. Here come the answers. What type of lamp was invented in the mid-1960s? So you select your answer and then make sure you hit the submit button. 3 seconds left. Get those answers in. Here we go. Results, lava lamp, the right answer. And look at this, we've got a smart crew in. We have got a smart crew in. Everyone that's playing got the right answer. So well done, everyone. Well done indeed. And there is the lava lamp. You can see that on your phone as well. Groovy baby. Well played. All right, so let's get on to question number 2. Remember, the faster you get it right, the more you score. In the TV series Happy Days, which character was played by Tom Bosley? Eyes on the phone now. A couple of pictures there. 4 selections. Pick which one is appropriate and submit your answer.
Marianne's struggling. She's way too young to remember this.
Oh, look, it's on Foxtel on reruns every day of the week, I reckon. Lock in those answers. There we go. We had a couple of Arnolds, a couple of Richies, and Tom Bosley was, of course, Mr. Howard Cunningham. There we go. Well done. Well done. So, takes us on to question 3 of our little mini quiz here. And the question is, in 1995, which colour did Mars add to their M&Ms? Eyes on your phone. You can make your selection. Which colour was added in 1995 to the M&Ms range? Make sure you hit the submit button. We'll lock in those answers. A couple of seconds remaining. And time's up. The correct answer, it was blue that was added in 1995. Well done, 18 people getting that one correct. So that's the little quiz. Let's have a look. We can find ourselves a winner live on the screen.
Coast. I might have an inkling who Max is, but good. Well done, Coasty. Congratulations.
Coasty. Now, if you have a look at your mobile phone right now, it'll show you the position that you came. So your own personal position. And Coasty right now, Coasty's phone would be showered in glitter and a little trophy on their screen as well, saying congratulations, they have won the quiz. So well done to Coasty.
Brilliant.
That's a great effort. Now we have a little call to action slide that we can also add into these quizzes. And it's simply entering your email if you want to stay in touch with us. If on your mobile phone, if you hit go to slide, it'll take you to that particular entry point where you can jot down your email and you can simply hit submit. Did a little call to action there so we can keep in touch with our players or people that are interested in hearing more about the products that we have on offer.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Darren. Back over to you, Brayden.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. I guess that last slide, that's obviously flexible there. There's a number of ways people might want to use that, but it just shows that there is a little bit of flexibility in the system as well. So yeah, look, we obviously realised that Trivia was going to transition a little bit better than the other products, and that's why we went ahead and created the Exquisite Live product.
And I think one of the things that I know from your events, Brayden, is it's about the design of the game and the hosting element, right? That's the thing that really makes a difference in trivia.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, there are platforms out there you can certainly find that will run a trivia event for you. You can do a lot of research and run around and try and gather a lot of questions together. It's something that people can do, but obviously what we do well is put those quizzes together and structure them in a particular way, so that they have a clear format, and we sort of build into the quiz the types of questions that you ask, the answers that you provide in the multi-choice. So there's a range of different things that we do within that quiz, and that's where the expertise comes in. And then obviously on the hosted side as well. And interestingly, we have run a trial. This is obviously a very, very new product for us. We've only been into lockdown for a couple of weeks. But we have run a trial of this with a venue. And one of the things that we found was really important was the retaining the existing host in running this event. So it was about the connection with the existing host. So I won't mention the venue, but the lady there, Rosie, was the regular host of the event. She ran the event. There was about 40 people that attended for the first one. And they've now got sort of 60 and 70 that are looking to come along tomorrow night for the next one. So one of the other things I think with events and with trivia in particular, you know, an ordinary trivia event may have 40 to 50 people that come along every week, but over a period of 12 months or so, the amount of people that engage with trivia is probably about 10 times higher. So you've probably got about 400 to 500 people, if you're running a normal 40 to 50 player trivia event, that have actually engaged with trivia at one stage or another throughout the year. And so the potential for that to grow into a reasonably sized number that would come along on a weekly basis and participate in that, there's certainly some upside. And I think we will see that in the venues that engage with this product.
And look, just pulling it back to Impact Data's needs for a second, one of the things I imagine about this product is you will capture people's details. So you're building an audience, as Marianne and I have been banging on about, to engage with post-opening so that you can transition those customers into being regulars coming back to your business.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think Darren made a really good point yesterday as well by saying that there will be venues that take this on and they build that audience, they build that connection, and then their doors open again, and those players are then more likely to come in and play a live version. But even if they don't, there is actually the possibility to continue to run it online for a little while, because we might, as you alluded to earlier, it's highly likely that we're going to be reopening venues and with social distancing in place. And so it might be a little bit of a slow crawl back for some people to come back out and feel comfortable coming back into venues. So if you can actually run this product in venue and online at the same time, then it might sort of hit two markets. And you know, I think there's got to be a little bit of different thinking around that as we come out of this period, because it's something that's just so unique.
Great point. So trivia is obviously a great product, Brayden. What else have you seen that is turning traditional pub-based events into new ways to keep members engaged?
Yeah, so look, I mean, the first thing I'd probably like to say here is that we're all creatures of habit. And so if we had a regular habit of going along to a trivia event on a Tuesday night at 7:30, then trying to keep and retain that habit is really important, because when we reopen, if you have continued to engage with your customers in that way, then you've got much more chance of bringing them back in on that night at that time, because they're used to doing it. So that doesn't just apply to trivia. I think that applies to a range of other things that might be going on within a venue. So, you know, one of the simple ones I've seen is a members draw. And, you know, you may have talked about that already, but I've seen some venues that are selling tickets through a third-party ticket provider into a members draw, and then they're conducting a live members draw via Facebook Live. And, you know, the patrons are logging on at that particular point in time because they've bought the tickets, and they're watching someone from the venue pull out a members.
Oh, that's great.
Members number, and someone wins. And if they're not there in a traditional way, they jackpot it for the next week as well. Fantastic. So again, like if that's going on a Friday night, traditionally in your venue, then try and transition that in online at the same time to retain the habit, just to keep the engagement at the same time that your customers would normally be in the venue.
I think that's a really, really good one. And I involved in a venue down here in Melbourne called Pride of Our Footscray, and they've transitioned their Saturday night drag show to a twitch.tv channel. And so you get on, and just as you would go to the show, to the event to watch it, you get to watch the performers, you get to donate to help them, because obviously everyone in the arts community has lost their job. And they're also now selling bingo tickets, just as you suggested. They're selling bingo tickets through a third party. You get emailed your bingo card, and then they do the live call, just as they would normally do on a Thursday night in the venue. So I think that's a really critical point, Brayden, that you make, that habit is really, really important. And I think, that speaks to loyalty, as Marianne mentioned before. So let's try and keep our customers in the habits that we enjoy. What is your best tip other than habit? Because I think you might have got, you might have given away your best one.
I think I probably did there. Look, I do think the habits is incredibly important. I do think that's probably the number one thing, and I do think that it can transition into to music, to comedy. I think as this evolves, we're going to see venues get more creative with how they engage their customers over time, remembering that we are only a couple of weeks into this. And I think the smart ones are going to really understand that generating those habits and maintaining them is going to be critical for a relaunch strategy. So it is, whatever you're paying to do that is a marketing cost. It's a marketing cost to keep, and it's a relaunch cost to keep your customers engaged with you. So I do think that, whilst it is obviously we're operating in an incredibly tough economic environment, and I mean, our business literally went to zero income overnight as well, along with the rest of the industry. But at the same time, this type of spend is going to set you up for, for the future. So that's really important. The other thing I think that's critical for venues is to keep it personal. I think sometimes we might forget that a lot of the people that attend our venues, this might be the only kind of social experience that they actually have within their lives. And we need to make sure that we're still there for them. So, and also making it personal with the staff members that you would normally, that a patron might normally see in your venue is really important. So whether it is photos or whether it is videos or, messages from certain people within the venue, I think retaining the familiarity and keeping it personal is really important as well.
I 100% agree. I've seen some great posts and emails from businesses actually showcasing their staff, and these are the people that that you come to see, that make your coffee, that know where you like to sit in the bistro, or that know what your dog eats at the pet store, whatever it is. These are the people that make a difference. And again, it comes back to you talked about whether it's a loyalty member, customer. These people are having a relationship with your brand, and a big part of that is the people behind your brand, that front of house experience, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, and that is really critical. So the more personal you make it, and on both sides of that, the more personal for the consumer, but also the more personal around your staff is a really fantastic point. So if you don't have shots of your staff, you might need to go and take some. So what we're going to do just before we talk about your relaunch plans, Brayden, we've got just a last minute reminder about the poll is, do you have a plan to engage your customers? The great thing is no one said they've given up. So hooray for everyone on the webinar. Good work. It's pleasing to see that everyone's giving some thought to it, and most have a few ideas. So let's hope we can round out this last half hour with a few more ideas to give you. But Brayden, can you talk to how you do plan to relaunch live events, bearing in mind some sports might come back or some products might come back a little earlier than others?
Yeah. So look, I mean, as I mentioned, it's sort of product specific. I think one of the things that we've we're really keeping in mind in our planning is that social distancing is a likely scenario to be in place even when pubs reopen. And so we need to think about how that applies to events that we're running. And I certainly encourage all venues to do the same, and to try and have a plan around that is very important. In our business, we're sort of doing a few different scenarios essentially. So we've got the teams together to discuss what it might look like in 3 months, what it might look like in 6 months, 9 and 12. So, you know, again, like I don't expect pubs to be closed for 12 months, but some of our events might be closed or might not be able to operate for that length of time with social distancing. So we've got to be really clear on that and cautious about that, and understand that that's a reality. You know, it would be great to launch with big events, but I think the reality is that what we'll be doing is trying to figure out how we actually run events with social distancing in place. I think that's going to be more relevant to the time.
Yeah, completely agree. And Anthony's going to speak to this in a second, but my view is the quicker the industry, whatever it is, whether it's retail or hospitality, grapples with social distancing in a real meaningful way, the more likely the government will be to ease social restrictions. There's not going to be a free-for-all. We're not just going to turn it back on tomorrow. No one thinks that. So how do we plan for that? And how do we make it still a pleasurable experience to go out and go to the pub or, go into a store? So I think Anthony might have a few ideas about that. But thanks for that, Brayden, and a great segue over to Anthony from Pubfinda, because I know he's been working on some great ideas. So can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. Well, Pubfinda has been going on for around about 10, 11 years, and we're predominantly a marketing and advertising company for pubs generally, but we do a few other businesses outside of that. We've got the Alfred Hospital is one of our customers also, so it's a little bit of left field in comparison to pubs, but it shows our diversity and what we do. So we do the printing and advertising and the artwork for most of the pubs around Melbourne, I suppose. So, and we've been doing that for the last 10 years. And it was a bit of a shock 2 Sundays ago when we were told that there won't be any more pubs going on and around, and it kind of threw everything into a bit of a tailspin. So we've been in constant communication with our venues over the past 2 weeks. So it's refreshing to know that people are still a little bit upbeat about the relaunching, and we're talking about relaunching already. So which is really, really positive. So one of the things that we try to do with our venues is work with them. As we know, all venues are different. And they have different expectations too, and so that's what we basically do.
So you're taking personalisation right back as well, right, to the client level, because each of them are different, as are their members. So that's a really important point. But you mentioned what are people planning for after the shutdown?
Well, it's funny. So we thought we'd go from hero to zero pretty quickly, but the last couple of weeks we've been doing a lot of takeaway menus and banners and trying to keep their current customers engaged as much as they possibly can. I think the first week there was a little bit of shock factor coming into it. I think all the venues were a little bit paralysed and thought, well, what do we do? And what we've seen probably over the last 6 or 7 days, venues are now kind of trying to re-engage with the community in different ways. And probably the takeaway has been the biggest growth that we've seen. And initially we had a fair few venues that said we're not going to do it, and now we're getting venues that are doing it. So that's probably been our biggest, and then at the same time has probably helped us develop another business called Social Distancing Signs, which where we're doing sneeze guards and protective barriers for staff. And that's one of the things that I think that first question is, what's the hottest trend at the moment? I think the hottest trend at the minutes. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I jumped to the end, Anne. Sorry. Well, we might come back to that, but just one point. We will. Sorry, I skipped I actually had a bit of a freeze on my computer. Your point on delivery is really important. Impact Data's been working with all of the point of sale partners who have transitioned to online delivery or pickup. We're starting to work with the pure play providers, so Mr. Yum and Tab Square, to help, because the most important thing you can do is get your audience and let them know that you're doing takeaway. And Anthony and I talked earlier in the week, what happens if you don't have an audience? And that really comes down to the good old fashioned do a letterbox drop and land people on a website. You know, that's one of the things we talked about, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And one of our customers wanted 5,000 flyers, and they were just going to get their staff to go out and do it. So rather than paying a third party to do it, they're getting their staff members to do it, which keeps them engaged also with the venue. So we probably, that's the way that I would rather our venues go to, and get their staff and get them involved, and they can go around and they can get their exercises up and all that kind of stuff at the same time. So that's what we've seen. We've seen a lot of the venues try and find other ways of, you know, we've got one group that's doing bread and milk.
Yeah. And we have seen that a fair bit as well, which is great. So what is the actual hottest trend other than takeaway that you're seeing?
Look, there's probably not a huge amount going on at the moment. The thing that our venues are probably more worrying about is, what do we do when we open back up? What are some of the things? And the things that we're talking about now really is make sure that you're prepared, and make sure that your communications is really clear and concise, and you know what you want to try and achieve out of it. So one of the things that we're finding at the moment, and things that I've spoken to our customers about, is over the next month, 2 months, 3 months, that we get together and we put a plan together. And I think Marianne was talking about that earlier. What we need to do is to make sure that when it is time to go, we're all ready to go, not having to think, oh, geez, we're going to open up in 2 or 3 weeks' time and we haven't got anything in place. So our biggest, I suppose, threat's going to be that we're not going to be prepared when it's actually ready to go. So what we want to make sure is that our customers, for their customers, we've got everything right and ready to go well in advance. So as soon as it's ready to go, we're there ready for them.
And let's be honest, when we get closer to understanding what reopening looks like, people are going to get inundated with communications and offers. And if you didn't have that relationship building over that time and ease your customers into the reopening, they're going to be like, who are you? And their inbox is crowded. How, you know, and that means socials, you know, their letterbox, whatever it is, just that's a, you know, sort of catch-all phrase. How are you going to get cut through if all of a sudden you're starting from day one where everyone else started 3 or 4 months prior to you? So
that's a really good point. And this is where we think maybe going back, it's funny how we're kind of going back to the old-fashioned ways of doing things in life. You know, we're cooking at home. We're doing a lot of the basic stuff that we were doing years and years ago. And this is where I think social media, and I also think emails or EDMs are a strong part of our business. But this is where I think the old-fashioned contact with the customer and the member is really critical. And I think this is where direct mail is probably going to play a massive part, where people will start to get things in their letterbox with offers, and it might be a checkbook of offers for the next 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and it gets them engaged back to the venue. Because I think what's really, really important for us is that there's going to be a whole heap of things that are going to happen when it opens up. There'll be sport that's going to come back. There's going to be cinemas that are going to come back. So we're not in the pub or the club industry. We're not just competing in amongst the club and the pubs. We're also going to compete against all these other businesses that are going to open up at the same time. So people will want to go to the Chatty or to Doncaster or to the cinemas. So there's going to be a whole host of things that people are going to want to do, because they'll be tearing the paint off the walls.
Absolutely.
I think what we're got to do, and this is, and I was talking to a venue about it this morning, one of the things that we can do as an industry is we can show leadership in this. And I think the really important thing for us is that making sure that our venues are seen to be a healthy place to go. So the sanitisation is really important, and making sure that that's really top of mind. And they're the things that we're talking about, the hottest topics. That's the thing at the moment, I think, for both, not only the customer, but also the staff member. So we've got to make sure that the sanitisation of the venues is at 100%, and also having these sneeze barriers like Woolers Woolies and Coles have got. I think that's going to be a trend that I'm seeing that I think behind bar.
That's back to the old days.
Back to
The
the old days.
I think that's that is definitely a reality. You know, banks, remember, we all had to stand behind the plastic, and then that went away, and we all sat around at a round table. Well, let me tell you, the plastic's back. So yeah, you're right. The world will definitely change, but you need to have your place in being top of mind for your consumer when we come out of this, and maintaining it. So what campaigns do you think people should be prioritising now? You've talked a bit about delivery. What other things do you think people should be thinking about, Anthony?
Well, the main thing is probably trying to do as many bounce backs as you can to try and drive your visitation up. And I think between even with Marianne and with Brayden, with Brayden's businesses, I think if once we get to a level where we can have extra entertainment within the venues, because we don't know what the venues are going to look like to start with. So we don't know if they're going to open up the venues as one, or is it going to be partial opening. So what we have to do is we have to be really nimble and make sure that we've got to have different priorities depending on the way the venues open up. So if we're opening up the bistro on its own, or if we're opening up the gaming area, or if we're opening up the sports bar, we have to have campaigns that are going to be suitable to each and every part of the venue. So I think what we need to also do is just work out what our strategies are going to be for each part. Bounce backs, we know, work really well. That is great for your members, but how do you then get the people that are not members through? So I think local area marketing is probably going to be another key part of prioritising your marketing plans, to making sure that people that you're not engaged with, you get them through your local area marketing. And that might be letterbox drops, and that might be having staff members or someone going around and dropping off stuff within the letterboxes. But also, I think local newspapers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with local newspapers. I think people may become more localised with this. So people are sitting at home, and they're probably going to be scared to go too far away from their house when they come back out. So we've got to make sure that we're capturing them as much as we possibly can.
I think
there might be a lot of new customers that come out of this also.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Some of the campaigns we're seeing the market embrace are things like the CUB campaign that they launched this week, for the love of your local. And what a great idea. But basically, you buy a gift voucher for a beer and CUB will match it. And that's cash flow for venues right now, which, let's be honest, that's really, really important. But it's also a guaranteed customer coming back into your venue in the future, and that could be someone that's never been to your venue before. You know, is a member down the road, but you're the local. You can also gift those sorts of things on. So I think those sorts of campaigns are great ones that businesses need to get involved with. And if you're not, you know, you should be. Some of the other things we've seen. If you're a CCA customer, they have a new portal for anyone who has a CCA customer number to access their image bank, which allows you to put food and their drink product, because their drinks have really high margin on them, which is great because you can increase basket size and all of those sorts of things. So there are resources out there for you to tap into with your business partners. And Kate, who can see it on here, is from our team. We will be sending out the survival guide that Impact Data's put together. We've basically rung everyone we know and said, what are you doing? Are you, can you help with gift vouchers, the CCA type of campaign? And the most important thing that businesses can do is go and look at their partners. Who is their point of sale provider? Who is their web provider? Who is their Wi-Fi provider? All of these people, and say, okay, how can you help me either build my audience, learn more about my customers, or help me prepare for the next phase? And if you don't have all of that data connected so you can see it and understand your customer, then it's time to do that right now, because there's no better time than now to upgrade your point of sale system or your business intelligence or work on your reporting, because now's the time that you need that data more than you've ever needed it before. So thanks, Anne.
So one of the things we were also talking about with some of our current clients is doing vouchers. So it might be that they'll offer their members a $100 voucher for the value of $125. So, and that's going to be obviously valid when they reopen. So that way, they're also getting some money coming in at the moment. But it's just trying to, and it's back to what Marianne was saying. You need to have something that we can go back to the customer with at the moment, and give them something to kind of come back to the venue and have a tie back to the venue. And I think if we can do those vouchers, I think that will go some way to try and have them come back to you over a period of time too.
Yep. Pay now, save later. Right.
Pay now, save later.
Yeah, it's a great thing. There's another organisation that's working in the restaurant sector, which is doing exactly that. And the website's savehospitality.org. Yep. If you haven't seen that and you're in a restaurant, it's fantastic. You can get exactly that sort of solution where customers can buy a house account, get extra value. You get the money now through your Stripe account, but the customer, more importantly, has a reason because they've already got credit in your venue. Basically, they're waiting for you to reopen so that they can come and enjoy dinner with their friends and family.
So it's a different loyalty, isn't it? So they've bought into it.
Absolutely. They're buying in. People want to buy in. People, and Anthony, you mentioned that point about local, and we are seeing that across the plethora of businesses that Impact Data supports with email and SMS. We're seeing buy local, shop local, support local. All of these things are absolutely critical. It has never been more important to talk to the people in your immediate vicinity than it is right now, because we've got no tourists. Yeah. Tourists aren't coming in to support our venues anymore. And Marianne works a lot of venues on the South Coast and on the beautiful coastal parts of New South Wales. No one's going to Bega. Yeah. No one's going to Byron. So you have to engage with your local community. And if you don't have them on your database, as Anthony said, you might have to engage in the local newspaper. You might have to get on the local radio. You might have to do a letterbox drop and get their email address so you can talk to them in the future.
Yeah, and what we're seeing, I think but the planning is going to be critical to this, and making sure that we've got a path that's going to take us to that next step, because if we don't get that right, that we'll miss out, and the opposition and your competitors will capitalise. And as I said, it won't just be pubs and clubs, but it's going to be shopping centres, it's going to be cinemas, it's going to be all sorts of different businesses that will come out of this that will want that dollar.
Absolutely. One last point before we move on to Anthony's next question. We hope that we are helping, and so far it looks like we've got a few some good feedback. So if you can just jump on the poll and let us know how we're going, and if you've got a couple of ideas, hopefully. We also would really welcome your ideas that you want to share with the rest of this community. So feel free to email hello@impactdata.com.au with your ideas, because we're all in this together, and that is the reality. This is happening to every single business. So let's try and make sure as many businesses pull through. So Anthony, as you said, the most important thing that you've been talking about is planning, and then you've got some really practical solutions with the sneeze guards, and I think you mentioned you might have some marketing materials that will help with social distancing.
Yeah, so we've got floor graphics, and we've sold a little bit of those. We've sold them to the Siebel Group, and we've sold them. Middies. So we're going far and wide. The Royal Melbourne Hospital are looking at them currently, and the Alfred Hospital are looking at these floor, and I haven't got one here to show you, but they're just pretty much social distancing and making sure that our venues become really strong advocates of that. I think that's going to go a long way to having all of our businesses reopen, is to make sure that we practice the social distancing. And what we're finding, we spoke to IGA about it, and they actually launched their own social distancing point of sale this week. But we've got, as I said earlier, we've got a website that we launched last week. We're still working on it, and it's going to have all the DHHS social distancing paraphernalia on it. So any point of sale that DHHS has got, we can print that for our venues, and we've got an order already today for about 4 pull-ups and a whole heap of floor graphics. So these venues are getting ahead of the curve and making sure that when we're ready to open up, that they've got all the point of sale ready to go with social distancing. So that's and again, talking to several of our venues, one of the key issues we might find is people might be a little bit afraid to go out after the lockdown, and they might not feel comfortable about sitting in someone else's chair, touching other things, be it gaming machines or doors or whatever it might be. So we've just got to make sure that we're ready, and we're ready to go with that.
It's a really good point you made earlier about cleaning, Anthony. I was on a webinar with Silver Chef a few weeks ago, the guys who are in the financing part of the industry. One of the things that Ken Burgeon said, who's a well-known restaurateur and content creator, he said, is make a theatre of your cleaning.
Yeah.
And, you know, he said, if you don't clean with a dirty old mop, go and buy a fancy new pink or yellow one, so everybody knows that you are serious about cleaning. Make a little video, make it fun, use Boomerang, use all these cool tools to engage customers. To, as you say, there will be fear, and let's do what we can to allay your customers' fears by making it part of the everyday, but making it a bit of theatre. And I think that was one of the really great ideas I heard, and that relates to every single business in the country. It doesn't matter if you're a pub or a club, you can make a theatre out of your cleaning. Yep. Excellent. So one last question I think we've got for you, Anthony, is what do you think will be the biggest change in marketing after the crisis?
I think venues will need to communicate a lot more with their customers. I think it's going to be an area where they need to re-engage with their customers, because if I think, as Marianne said, if you can keep it up during this period, that's great. We don't know how long the period is going to be, but I think once the period starts to ease, I think what we'll find is that there'll be a lot more communication via SMSing, emails, but direct mail, probably more so, where the customer will get something physical in their hand that they can bring into the venue. We're working on several promotions where it might be that they'll get something in the mail and then they'll have to bring it into the venue to redeem it. And it might be a prize, it might be scratchy cards. So there's a whole host of different ways of trying and drive the visitation back to the venues with some really good offers, because I do think we're going to have to maybe re-educate some of our customers, because they may not be as willing to come back out as we might think. Like we do, you know, we hope that at the end of all this, they turn around and say, oh, you know what, I can't wait to get back to my local. But at the same time, I think Brayden said it, we're a creature of habit. And maybe once you break that habit and they say, oh, you know what, I can have a couple of beers at home with my mates instead, that might be a habit that we may need to break down the track too. So we want to make sure that we get people back out into our venues ASAP, but into our businesses. You know, so that's not just because I think online shopping is going to have a huge boom over the next 2 or 3 months. So people will need to re-engage them for their retail stores also.
Absolutely. Yeah. So everything old is new again, Anthony, I think is the wrap up.
I think so. I think so. My kids.
Nothing wrong with that.
The kids are telling me that I had to buy them a PS4 yesterday, so they could.
Let's go back to the absolute crux of marketing, which is engage with the right person at the right time, right? And the channel is really important. So on that note, I'm actually going to open up a couple of questions now. So thank you, Anthony, and the poll tells me that we've got some that the audience is enjoying this and getting some great ideas. So appreciate that. So a couple of last questions before we wrap up. And feel free, anyone, to jump in and answer. Do you think business will spend more or less marketing after the shutdown? Marianne, I know you're going to jump in there. Yeah.
Well, definitely the smart ones will spend more in the very beginning. I think to your point at the very beginning where you said if you're doing nothing right now, your competitors are going to be 4 times ahead of you. If you do something right now, you can end up being 4 times that. So you can end up being 16 times ahead of your competitors right now if you use this time properly.
Agreed. Yep. Anyone else have any commentary on that? Brayden? Unmute, mate.
Yeah. Look,
Magic.
Look, it's my honest opinion there is I think it's going to be horses for courses. I think that venues will want to spend, and those that have money and businesses that have money will be able to spend on marketing. Obviously, I think overall, there'll be a land grab in a sense. But I think venues are also going to, and businesses will be wanting to be smarter about how they spend that money. So that is going to be really critical, because I think I don't expect the doors of pubs and clubs especially to reopen and everyone to charge out with enthusiasm and hit the streets. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the habits that we create by staying at home, I think that the money that is in consumers' pockets, I think all of those things are going to have an impact. And so being clever and being smart with marketing dollars is going to be really important.
Yep, agreed. Less waste. I think if one of the things that you need to be doing in marketing now is actually really understanding where your spend goes and what your balance is between brand, engagement, tactic, all of that sort of stuff. And I think everyone on the panel at some point has spoken about planning, and that comes down to your marketing as well. What is it that you're trying to achieve? So start with your strategy, then work through your plans and tactics, and then your budget will fall out of that. Don't start with the budget first. Figure out what you're actually trying to achieve and work from there. So I quoted Mark Ritson earlier. He was suggesting that if you're a smart marketing manager, you should be asking for more money now, and probably you actually might be able to spend less in the reopening, because you've got a really strong engagement plan, and you'll have reduced waste because you'll actually know who you should be talking to. Okay. What types of venues or businesses do you think will be best placed to succeed? Now, we've talked about those that are spending, those that are engaging. Is there any other thing that you think will be an indicator or an industry that might emerge that we should all be thinking about? Anyone want to jump in on that one? No?
No.
No?
I will just say, and my clients will be so sick of these two words by the time this whole thing is over: member segmentation, market and segmentation. Getting to know your members now will put you 10 times ahead of the game, because you'll have 10 different things that you might want to advertise or promote within your business. And if you can save money by only doing communicating to 10% of your membership about each one of those things rather than 100% to 100 of them, not only are you going to get a more effective campaign result, but it's actually going to cost you less to communicate to those small people. So I think, I can't stop by saying, prepare, plan the work the plan. That's all I can say.
I think that's really true. But I think you've actually all hit on a few points here, that if you actually know your customer, so now is the time. If you don't know your customer, now is the time to work on figuring out who they are and who you want them to be in the future. Some of the industry, and Brayden, you mentioned some venues that might actually run in parallel with live events and online events and things like that. Businesses that have pivoted quickly should be able to pivot out fairly quickly, or that have innovated, but they might be able to actually maintain a few income streams over that period. So, for example, I suspect businesses that have turned on traditional takeaway and delivery will probably still be doing that post-crisis when we're reopened, because they've actually figured out they're not bad at it. It's good margin, and it adds value to their business. I
definitely think that the revenue streams will change, no doubt. I do think it has been the crux of, I guess, this whole webinar, but those who are maintaining a meaningful relationship with their customers are going to be the most well-placed businesses to succeed. So, it's not necessarily the types, although there'll obviously be certain segments of the market that will do well naturally. I think it's as much in our own hands as, destiny is in our own hands, and the better job that we all do of maintaining that meaningful relationship with the customer will make a massive difference to what happens on the other side.
And I think, Anthony, you mentioned the point about local. People that actually have a point of difference, and if local is your point of difference, creating that local event, then you're, again, probably that's one of those things that might help you succeed.
Yeah, I think so. I think local, and I think the businesses, and it comes back to the planning, that what types of venue businesses will best be placed. It will be the ones that plan the best, and making sure that they've got all their ducks in a row, and they're engaged with their customers. And I 100% appreciate at the moment for our venues. They're in shock, and at the moment they're still probably trying to get out of that shock system, and it's the quicker we can get back to them communicating with the customer is going to be best for them in the long run.
Yep, I agree. One last question I think we've got is, aside from customers and members, what other stakeholders should you be staying engaged with? Marianne, that might be a good question for you, I think.
100% staff, 100%. We've, started setting up a whole heap of just staff-only emails. I think it's really important, especially in the hospitality. We have a lot of uni workers and a lot of, weekend workers that hospitality is not their core business. And in this time, they might find new permanent work that they're not coming back to you guys. So now all of a sudden we've got this big gaping hole in what we know operationally wise, and we have to reskill and restaff our people. So the things that we're starting to plan work on is around keeping together with your staff and really having a strong bond with them as well, because if we know, okay, we've lost 20% of our bistro staff, then we need to start writing training documents and making it part of our induction package, so that when we open the doors on day one, we're not 20% behind the ball because we have all this new staff we have to train.
Yeah, everyone's operating cadence will dissipate over this period, right? So how do you keep them engaged? I mean, Brayden's probably got a great idea with trivia is a really cool one. Marianne, you and I have talked about training platforms like Tipsy. There are other ways that you need to be doing it. I'd add a couple of other stakeholder groups. One is your shareholders. If you are a business or a club, or a hotel or retail business, you need to talk to your shareholders. You might need to raise capital, let's be honest, to keep, and they're the people that are probably best placed to do that. The other audience that I'd suggest, the two audiences, is your suppliers. Keep in touch with them, because they might be hurting, but also they might be innovating ideas that they could flow down the supply chain to you. And I've seen that a lot in venues where they're showcasing a beautiful meat supplier and turning that into a delivery hamper with instructions from the chef about how to cook that steak with the finishing touches that come in that hamper. A beautiful story from woe to go that consumers like, oh, so that's the guy who grew the veggies and supplied the steak and whatever. So again, that's creating a really personalized experience. The other one is your industry bodies and government. Anthony, you mentioned DHHS. You need to talk to your industry bodies, whether it's the Restaurant and Catering Association, whether it's the AHA, whether it's Clubs Vic, Clubs New South Wales, whatever it is. One,
also the Visa GLR. I think it's really important that our venues are really connected with the Visa GLR, because if there's any legislation changes, they need to be aware of what's going on, because there will definitely be changes, and we don't know what that looks like, because with the social distancing, we don't know how they're going to behave, if it's going to be 4 square meters per person, if it's going to be 1.5 for everything. So that's including gaming machines. So if you've got gaming machines that are sitting next to each other, what does that mean for those? So there's a lot to consider here. So I think you're right. I think the AHA is really important. The clubs associations, they really need to be on top of that, because there's going to be a lot of things that are going to change when we first open the doors, and it might get back to normality in 2 or 3 years' time, but it's going to take a long time. And I think in the short term, we need to make sure that these venues are really engaged with those stakeholders.
Exactly. And with 1 minute to go, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody, everyone who's been on and listening. There's some chat, which I know Kate has been following up, and we'll have some questions. We don't have time for last tips, so I actually might get you guys to supply one that we'll send out to everyone via email. Impact Data has our survival guide as part of our website, and lots of the stuff from our partners here today will form part of that content. And any idea, any part that we've spoken to who's helping the industry survive is part of that survival guide. Huge thanks to Marianne, Doyle, Brayden, Haynes, Darren Shaw and Anthony Baldi today. You guys have really helped the industry think new ideas, and that's what the poll told me, which is absolutely fantastic. We will be sending this out so you can learn more about Buzz Consultants, Full House Group and Pubfinda. So thank you, everybody. I hope you got something out of today, and we look forward to talking with you all in the future.